great to see you here in the studio. Give us your view of things here. We have seen a market slide after the big record run-up, and give us your view of things here at the moment.
When you look at the overall levels, trading levels in the economy, the American economy continues to be very robust. And the markets reflect record intangible levels of value across the system. And in some ways, America is benefiting by the weakness of others, but it clearly is the strongest financial power on a relative basis than it has been in some time.
Of course, your firm is involved in some of the biggest merger and acquisition deals, including those involving China. Tell us about what's happening on the M&A scene.
Well, the M&A scene continues to be complicated, but is very active. We have found our own business to be robust, but that the general marketplace to be relatively choppy. As it relates to China, we think that we are at the beginning of an enduring trend of significant Chinese investment in the United States, particularly as the political wrinkles to help make that happen are finally made wrinkle-free.
All right. Are you seeing that happening a lot here in Southern California?
We are seeing some related to Southern California, as it is very often the first place that the Chinese visit. And they seem to have a deep and abiding interest in technology. And that is technology very broadly, all the way from industrial technology to digital media to biotechnology to medical devices. And many of those are very strong here in Southern California.
Tell us where the action is right now. Obviously, a lot of attention focused on healthcare these days. Do you see merger activity picking up in that sector, for example?
Well, it is one of those sectors that's subject to its own political machinations, is about to, we think, take its place relatively in the economy, where you have $1 trillion plus healthcare segment that is probably underweighted in terms of its M&A activity historically.
All right, and what are some of the other sectors, especially where you're seeing a pickup in this kind of merger activity? Aerospace, real estate, financial services. Give us an update on what's happening through the entire landscape.
Well, I would say that rather than talking about the specific industries, because we have seen this to be a broad-based increasing of interest in mergers and acquisitions, is that we also are seeing much more activity on the part of the private equity firms. Taken as a group, they've never had more capital, and their portfolios now are quite large. Some of the largest private equity groups have, as total assets under management, unheard of amounts, in a few cases actually exceeding $100 billion. When you take a look at these very large groups, they become the financial empires of today and tomorrow. Blackstone, Carlyle, KKR, TPG. These are the names of some of the biggest financial institutions in the world today. And they started off as private equity firms doing leveraged buyouts.
How are things going at the moment on the lending front, which of course was a huge issue 5 years ago when we spoke with you at the ACG conference back then, and how are things looking right now?
The marketplace is more selective, there is more differentiation, but there also is significant capital available. However, the marketplace is much more focused on winners and losers, both by industries and within industries.
You've also spoken recently at the UCLA Anderson School of Business, delivering the keynote speeches there, and I know you're also involved in mentoring young business leaders, including one who's also going to be joining us this hour, Wanji Bruni, who's an amazing success story. Tell us about your work in mentoring successful folks.
In May of this year, when I reached my 65th year, I formally retired to the position of co-founder of Houlihan Lokey. I maintain an office there, and I am involved in activities relating specifically to China and to Israel. But it has given me a tremendous amount of free time to explore those areas of greatest personal interest, which are writing poetry and mentoring promising mid-career entrepreneurs. I only mentor those that have become friends, and I have found it as a wonderful way of spending my life now as I look forward, being able to share some wisdom and trade it for some excitement in watching these careers blossom. And none of them gives me greater pride than the work I've done over the last few years with Wanji.
Tell us about Wanji and how you guys connected, and tell us about your business ventures.
Well, Wanji and I connected over a word that he found fascinating because he wanted to know how to apply it to his business. And that was the word strategy. How does he become strategic given the fact that he has a half a dozen different things and an incredible amount of energy that are always calling on his time? Because of the fact that his personality is such that people just want to be with him, he needs to have more discipline in order to implement a strategy, and he needs to choose those things that have the greatest economic opportunity for him as opposed to those things that he enjoys the most. It's easy to get distracted in the entertainment business where everybody is rich, famous, and beautiful.
We're speaking to Jim Zukin, the co-founder of Houlihan Lokey, a giant in the investment banking world, and we'll introduce the audience to Wanji Bruni, who's also going to be coming into the studio in just a moment. Morning, Mr. Jim Zukin, the co-founder of Houlihan Lokey, and taking a look at your resume here, Jim, I see you earned a BA with honors in economics and English poetry from the University of California, Berkeley, and an MBA from Harvard Business School, of course. Tell us how you connected with Wanji Bruni, who's also joining us now here in the studio, a fantastically successful entrepreneur, the founder of Real Sauvage. Welcome, Wanji Bruni, to the studio as well.
How you doing, Frank? So thank you for that introduction. Great to be on the radio today on KNX, and I'm a big fan, and it's good to have this opportunity to share this time with Jim Zukin, my mentor, and to talk about things and that we're working on together. But again, excited, and it's a great day.
Well, fantastic, and great to connect with you both here. And Jim, tell us how you connected with Wanji. You mentioned poetry was one of your connections here?
Well, our meeting was a little unusual in that I met him at Sinai Temple as he was sitting next to me during the
High holidays, right?
the high holiday services, and so we had a lot of time to hang out together in the shul and got to know each other a little bit, and then we got together afterwards and found that had a lot of similar interests relating to digital media. We became friends, and then as the friendship evolved, it evolved to the point where I was mentoring him, which is not a compensated activity, but it is something that I very much enjoy doing. And then a couple of years into that, Wanji came back to me and he said, you know, I'd like to see if I can pull out from some of your poetry some lyrics that I can use to give kind of a different frame of reference to my hip-hop. And Wanji, why don't you take it from there?
And as Jim mentioned, it was just, the energy between myself and Mr. Zukin was just amazing. We really bonded quickly. I was really impressed by his vocabulary, not only in the music, but in poetry. And when we all know that poetry is hip-hop, and hip-hop is poetry, they run together. And I thought it was amazing that we both have the ability to take Zukin's 45 years of poetry and my hip-hop and bring it together. And we did things like visit the Grammys and just hang out with will.i.am and different artists and kind of talk to them about what we were working on together. But when I started spending time with Jim and spending time at his home and listening to this poetry from 45 years of poetry, I couldn't believe that he not only had the talent, but he had the true passion to put this together. And I felt that it would marry perfectly with hip-hop. And it wasn't like I was experimenting with it. I knew that just some of the content, some of the storyline, and some of the feeling in there. And what is hip-hop and what's music? It's about feeling. So we started dabbling and visited the studio once or twice and put some things together on tape that were amazing. But we have some big plans with this poetry. And Wanji, I always like to be, as an artist, I like to be, I like to do what people are not doing. And I think this is a whole new twist, and I think it makes sense. And I'm so happy that Zukin could share this with me, and I'm so happy that we could do this together.
It's wonderful, and I really appreciate you sharing it with the Business Hour audience. Now, you're the founder of Real Sauvage Entertainment, apparel, and branding company. You've created quite an empire. You yourself started as a teenager, had your first hit record, right, at the age of 15. Your family's from Haiti.
Yeah.
You made it all the way to Los Angeles. Tell us about your amazing success story.
My amazing success story would not be without my wonderful father, McNeil Bruni, and my wonderful mother, Evelyn Bruni. I have to say to both of them, I love them so much because, just coming out of Haiti and making sure that we were born here in the United States to the country of so much promise. So that's a blessing. And I've been able, when I came out here from Haiti, when my parents came out here from Haiti, and I just saw as a kid growing up and being born here in the United States that hip hop had such a voice, and it was such a part of the community. So I just veered towards that, and at 15 put out my first record independently. And of course I was, I didn't go through the traditional system of the traditional signing to a record company. At that time, we didn't have the digital platforms we have as iTunes and Facebook and Instagram and those things, and which are wonderful things today. But I started selling my music, network marketing, and grassroots out of street teams. And from 15 to 25, put out 9 records, sold a total of 2 million records independently. And I was just really passionate about it. It was really something different, and a lot of artists followed after that on this independent thing. But thank God today that we have the vehicles. Again, there's all these digital platforms that are out there to give us the ability to express not only our talent, but control the content.
Independent meaning you did it on your own, and obviously with the gentleman in the room here, you have some terrific friends that helped you along the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's again, my family's been a major support in my career, and again, I was one of those kids that were lucky, and I was lucky because I had some good surroundings and stayed away from the drugs, stayed away from the gang, stayed away from the negative things that sometimes that can get a teenager in trouble. And again, so music is the passion, and again, we're taking it to the next level now, myself and Mr. Zukin, and we got a lot of great things coming out. And again, it's going to be a big surprise for the world, and I think everyone's going to be shocked and impressed how we do this. And music now is global. It's a global industry. It's been a global industry, and there's no rules in music. It's about being creative, and it's about expressing yourself creatively, and we're about to do that in a major way.
And attending many of the business conferences locally, I'm impressed. Attending, for example, the ACG conference and the Milken conference, and a lot of business people have tremendous talent in other areas as well, including music. At the Milken conference, we heard some opera singing this year and so forth. And Mr. Zukin, you with your poetry, I don't mean to brag, I don't mean to boast, but I do like hot butter on a breakfast toast. What inspired you to get into this world and help Mr. Wan G out with some great ideas?
Well, I've been a poet since I was 17, and the fact that I had a tremendous knack for investment banking and love the deal world also does not mean that I'm not a committed poet. I've written over 1,000 poems in my lifetime, and I have kept them back from publication as I focus in a single career determination to build Houlihan Lokey, initially named Houlihan Lokey, Howard and Zukin, into the global firm that it is today. Now I have an opportunity to be more open with my poetry, and I see Wan G as a key to opening the door for me. Without this door, I probably would not ever be exposed to lyricism. Unfortunately,
our time is running short, but for anyone that wants to explore the poetry and the work of Wan G, as well as investment banking, where can they sample some of that?
Well, we can go. I actually wanted to give you guys something live. Jim wanted to give you something live on there. Is that okay?
Let's try it.
Let's do it. Let's go.
This is called Los Angeles. It's just an excerpt. Hollywood Pantheon, legendary Babylon, hills and $100 bills, culture forgotten, intrusion, illusion, Whittier Wonderland, Disneyland Batman, Utopia Dystopia, Waterways Paydays, Forays Freeways, L.A. Noire, The Promised Land, Silicone Injection, River of Infection, beats vibrant youth. Reappear, disappear, phantasmagoric planispheres, sunset, stripped.
I like it. I like it. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you very much for sharing your inspiring stories with us on the investment banking scene, as well as, of course, on the artistic side, Wan G. Bruni and Mr. Jim Zukin. Great stories, and thank you very much for sharing all of that with us here today in the KNX Business Hour.